Commence primary ignition.
Hello and welcome to episode 165 of The Usual Podcast, the podcast where we discuss all things geek and pop culture. I'm your host, Marshall, and with me, being ornery as always, is my co-host, Will. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Not much. I'm doing pretty good. It's near the end of the week, and I've already had a beer in me. So,
oh, a beer? Oh, good God!
That's a lot for me this time in my life.
Anyway,
there's that beer that I'm not having a beer with us right now.
Oh, well, I'm not going to tell you how many I've had. And we're just sitting here enjoying our usual frosty beverages. What are you drinking that's not beer, or you had beer earlier? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, well, right now I'm drinking a Diet Pepsi, but I had a nice Blue Moon with that whole birthday thing I had earlier going on. So
nice, dude.
So it's good. But I did go grocery shopping today, and I bought the essentials of a bottle of Captain.
Oh, that's perfect. Yay. That's what I need. I need to get a bottle of scotch or bourbon or something. That would make me feel good. But again, I am not drinking that tonight. I'm drinking a Sierra Nevada hazy little thing again because it's my standard. Sadly, it hasn't been on sale, but I'm still buying it, so it's all good.
Guys, remember when your standard used to be Hop Stupid, and then before that was Torpedo, and
yeah, I go through like I think almost a year-long stints on certain beers, and then I'll switch to something else. It kind of depends. I've been standard last couple of years with Sierra Nevada stuff just because it's cheaper, and it's the flavors. I love Sierra Nevada. It's amazing.
Sierra Nevada is okay. You know what's funny is because I'm not a huge Sierra Nevada fan because it's always too hoppy for me.
Yeah.
Whereas I like Sam Adams, and you're not a Sam Adams fan.
No, I actually really like, and I like a couple of their beers. But their standards stuff, I really don't like very much.
No, I remember. I think you like either the Winterfest or the Oktoberfest.
Yeah. It's not the Winterfest. The Oktoberfest is good though. Yeah. The Winterfest has a weird, like, when you get those winter beers, like, Sierra Nevada does one too. They did their celebration. It's fine, but it's just like, it's got that little spice notes to it. And I'm not the biggest fan of that cause I mean, I don't want just one beer, right? I mean,
exactly. So, yeah.
Let's not be crazy.
Well, can't all be me.
Indubitably. So before we get started, if you have comments or questions, you can find us at theusualpodcast.com. Email us at theusualpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we're on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. So like us, share us, and, give us stars and tell your friends and all that. So before we get into the rest of this too, we obviously have to thank our drinking buddies and the people supporting the show. And again, our Patreon is a little in flux right now too, but if we do extra shows, we're not going to charge you for extra shows this month. So we put one shot this month, but this one is just, we wanted to get together. We've both been having an interesting week. So we thought we'd just get together. It's not live, so we don't have to worry about the chat room this week. So when you see this in your feed, you'll be like, what the hell? No, we didn't do it live. But we're just wanting to get together and talk about some of the recent news happening in the parks and some Disney Plus stuff, which is basically why we're here.
Especially since actually a lot of it actually deals with what we talked about in our last episode.
Absolutely.
So it's like, since we had that episode, this stuff has come out. So
yeah, and thanks again to Nick and Will for coming on the last episode. That was a lot of fun. I love those guys, and like I said, I got together with Nick and we did a cool interview on my other show, Just Keep Writing, and we'll put that stuff in the show notes too. And we have our side things that we're doing as well, but I really love some of the conversations I've been having with people. It's been really nice sitting in this same chair day in and day out. Sometimes I switch to my chair out front when it's nice, but it started raining again today, so that made me sad.
Yeah.
The rain hopefully will be gone, dude, and next week I'm hoping to play some golf, maybe this weekend, but we'll see.
Now that California's opened up golf courses.
Yeah, but Little River is closing. Everybody has to be off the golf course by 4:00. So I can't do it during the week. And so it would have to be a weekend thing. It's supposed to dump all weekend. So
that sucks.
I'm not super stoked about that. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into our
really quick.
Yes?
Do you have to play 18 or can you play 9 holes?
Well, I can play 9. But I mean, the earliest I can get down there with my work schedule would be 3:30.
Right.
No,
I'm just saying you might be able to convince me to go out to play 9 sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It's been over a decade since you and I have played golf.
I know.
I still remember the last time we played was at Dairy Creek.
Oh God, it's way more than 10 years then. Oh God, dude, we're getting old. Okay, so let's talk about pop culture stuff before I get sad and nostalgic. What do you want? Let's start with the big news. This happened 3 days ago. Shanghai Disney opened up.
Yeah, let's catch up with the Disney stuff. To kind of give just everybody a recap, last time we talked about, we knew that Shanghai Disney was going to be opening up, and you had mentioned something about that you'd seen something about tickets for sale for Disneyland, but we hadn't gotten any more specific information for Disney World. So
Right.
There have been pictures and videos about what happened when they opened up Shanghai Disney. It's really cool. They capped it at a 30% capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then they actually,
which we expected, obviously.
Exactly. Which, if you go grocery shopping and you see those squares on the floor, like Safeway and Walmart, and they say this is 6 feet away, they were all over the ground.
Oh wow!
At Safeway, and so you knew exactly where you could stand. It was exactly from the pictures that I saw.
You said it's Safeway at Shanghai.
No. I'm saying when you see them, for those of you who go shopping at like Safeway.
No, I know, but then you said they were all over the ground at Safeway.
Yeah, no, it's Shanghai. And
it was that one beer, dude. I'm telling you.
I know, right? Seriously. And I'm 350 plus. You think it wouldn't affect me so much? But from the pictures that I saw, there's a lot of the stanchions and ropes. Like I told you, Disney's designed for it.
Yeah.
So all they have to do is just learn how to get to perform guest service with that capacity, and they're good.
Yeah. So I mean, there has to be an upside to some of the employees at Disney parks too right now, right? Because I mean, obviously they've had to lay a lot of people off and deal with that. But if they open the parks again, they will need extra staff to monitor all this stuff too.
Yeah. So I want to say Disney World furloughed 140,000 people or something like that. Or did the Disney company as a whole furloughed 140,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to hire some back. I mean, they didn't furlough everybody.
Yeah. But I just mean when Disney World decides to open, they're going to have.
Oh yeah.
They have to bring back a lot of those people in order just to keep people where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, the first people they're going to have to bring back is a whole bunch of maintenance crew who are going to have to install all the plexiglass and the guardrails and everything.
And the folks cleaning stuff too.
Exactly. Well, they're doing that now. They're keeping everything as clean as a whistle right now.
But I'm talking about like in between customers and stuff like that, and going through the shops and stuff too. Because
exactly. And I'm guessing about a month before, maybe 2 months before they open, they're going to start hiring back actual guest service people, and they're going to start training them on how to do temperature checks and mask checks and all that.
I just thought about something while you were talking too. As far as retail goes at the Disney parks, that's got to be a little tough. I depending on the shop, do you think, like, for example, if Disneyland opens, there's some of those really tiny shops. I imagine they're going to have people at the front that are going to have to say either they won't be open or they will have a limited capacity. I mean, they would, like the Emporium, for example, too. There's no way they can let as many people go through there as always, because there will be no way to social distance.
No, what I'm guessing that they're going to do is because all the racks on the floor are movable.
Yeah.
Right. Just the way that Disney's designed. So they could do different layouts if they need to. I'm guessing they're going to limit the racks and put them in a specific order and put stanchions throughout the store. So like, I'm guessing when you go in, you have to, because all the stores on the right side of Main Street, so the east side of Main Street, are all connected until you get to the coffee shop. Right. And then on the left side, you're connected until you get to the restaurant, and then they reopen, and then the restaurants past that, like the ice cream shop and all that stuff, those are all connected.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're going to make it where it's going to be one way.
Oh, okay.
So like if you enter, say the Tog store on which is the first store on the right, past the the hat store.
Yeah.
The hat store is just kind of standalone. It's connected to Great Moments and Mr. Lincoln, but past that, you have that very first Tog store. It's really tiny.
Right.
I'm guessing they're going to lock some of the doors and make it all one way, and so you have to come in. And then what I'm guessing is they're not going to have any cashiers open in those stores, but they're just going to have them as directing traffic, and they're going to have like one cash wrap of like 6 registers open in like the third store. You just have to get in line and wait your way through line.
Yeah. I mean, and that's smart. I think if they're not going to do that, they need to talk to you. But no, I think the one-way thing makes sense because even at the grocery store, they've got one-way aisles. Nobody pays attention to it except for me, I guess. But,
yeah. So, so like if you're talking about the Emporium, I'm guessing they're going to make that one-way headed out. But the Emporium is always the main store. I mean, a lot of people hit it first. But what I'm guessing is you're going to do is you're going to have to go down Main Street to get into the Emporium run. And if you remember in Emporium, they've got a bank of 3 or 4 registers on the south wall.
Yeah.
And there's a door on either side. I'm guessing those are both going to be exits, and you'll hit the tills and then go out.
Yeah.
And right across from that, there's a corral of 4 more registers. So I'm guessing it's going to be like they're just going to split the line going both ways and hit 2 on either side and then the wall, and you're out.
It makes sense. I mean, and honestly, they would have to just limit people doubling back and milling about and moving. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's going to be tough. We'll see how it goes. And I'm sure next time we record, Shanghai will have some reports. Hopefully they're still running and being efficient, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah,
what I'm really worried about, like I said, my trip is planned for December. I'm worried that they're going to like reopen up and say August. We're going to get a bounce back of Corona, and then it's going to be delayed another 6 months after that.
Well, that's been my concern too. And honestly, man, like, I have stuff planned in September and stuff as well, which we've talked about. But when, let's see, so it says, so this actually leads into the other article I put in here. Or did you want to talk about Shanghai first?
No,
or anything else about that? Okay.
No,
so, but when Disney and Walt Disney World could open, I reopen. There's an article from comicbook.com in here, and it's really interesting to think about. But obviously Disney World is going to open before Disneyland.
It is. And Disney World has a couple things going for it. One, it's much more spread out. The stores themselves are bigger. The queue lines are bigger.
And actually, Disney Springs might open up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, actually, I think it opened up this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an outdoor shopping area.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's pretty much like downtown Disney at Disneyland. It's very similar. It's because I think they have Disney Springs and downtown Disney at Disney World, but Disney Springs is like off to the side of the property.
Yeah.
So, and you can access it from a different area. But I think that's the big thing going for Disney World is that it's much more spread out and it's a lot easier to socially distance.
Yeah. So,
because I want you to imagine this. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Imagine this. You've only been because you haven't been to Disney World, right?
No.
Okay, imagine this. You have Disneyland. Imagine trying to socially distance during a showing of Fantasmic.
No, it's impossible. It's insane.
It is. But at Disney World, Fantasmic is actually shown in an amphitheater. And so you can actually make it where you have to sit like 2 seats apart.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can actually enforce social distancing at the amphitheater at Fantasmic.
And I'm thinking about that too. At Disneyland, you wouldn't be able to do any of those shows or at DCA, you wouldn't be able to do like the pop-up ones, like the Army Men and stuff like that. I mean, because
they just won't do those.
You just couldn't do it. In Fantasmic, there's no way you can do it because there are people that stop in the middle of the walkway and try to watch that show.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone trying to keep people moving and socially distant. That's impossible.
Yeah, no, Fantasmic would not happen at Disneyland. The only thing I can imagine them doing is no, I really can't think of a way they could do Fantasmic at Disneyland.
I don't think they can. And I'm thinking at Disneyland, I don't think there's any parades they can do, because again, most of them go down Main Street, and that's going to be a cluster regardless. So
exactly, because especially if it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, this article goes on to kind of talk about some of these things, and obviously California. It talks about where California is with their relaxing of things, which we're nowhere near what other states are doing for sure. Los Angeles, like I said, as of yesterday, I think said they're going to be locked down for another 3 months at least. So
yeah, the only things that opened up in California in the last couple of weeks were like exercise and recreational stuffs, like horseback riding, golf courses, state parks, stuff like that.
Retail for curbside as well.
Yeah, curbside retail, things that you can still socially distance.
Right. There's a thing in here that talks about Disney Springs. So during initial opening phase, Disney Springs will have limitations on capacity, parking, operating hours. Given this unprecedented situation, we appreciate everyone's patience. Oh, so this is from the actual whoever was talking. I didn't catch the beginning of this article, but the point is this is just we know Disney World is probably going to be first, but I think Shanghai is kind of like we talked about in the last show. It's going to be kind of the guinea pig on this. So
it is, and there's still things you have to think about. That I mean, we haven't even mentioned is how are you going to like do parking at the Mickey and Friends parking structure? Are you going to make it where you have every other space required to be empty so you can socially distance the cars?
Well, and then how are you going to get people from there?
Yeah, are you going to make it where the tram works? We have to sit in every other row.
Yeah. I was watching something earlier today with the wife. It was funny. We were watching, I think it was Trevor Noah. There was a restaurant, a really fancy restaurant somewhere that is planning on, trying to spread people out and to not make people feel weird, which I think this is a weird way to go about it. They're actually putting mannequins at the other tables.
Oh, that's just weird.
that like are all dressed to the nines sitting at the tables. Like that's super weird.
It's like, have you seen the videos of the Korean Baseball League where they have nobody in the stands, but they've got, they've got like painted people up there.
Well, it's funny. I think they have masks on too, which I think is weird.
Yeah,
too,
which is hilarious.
But speaking of Disney World, obviously, and there's another article that I have in the show notes too that talks about they're going to implement mask temperature checks and plexiglass dividers, which you already know.
They're going to have to.
But I mean, again, we'll see how this plays out.
Now check this out. Are they going to be doing bag checks? Because that's just their hands all over your stuff.
So think about this. So that was something that I listened to the Disney Dish podcast, right?
They're going to just have to limit like no bags at all.
They were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on their show, and that is a huge thing that's going to really slow things up because if you think about it, they're going to have whoever's checking those bags is going to have different gloves every single time. And that's something that is insane. But you have to check bags, though. Unless they only searched by sticks. So, like, if you open it and they use sticks to move stuff around. True. I don't know. That's going to, like I said, I think those guys were speculating that they would do that a little bit differently. The check areas in Disney World. They didn't even talk about Disneyland because Disneyland only has the two spots to check bags. But I don't know. It's going to be a trip, man. I'm guessing they might start actually having an X-ray scanner and you just put your bags through and just have it like the TSA. Yeah. But again, I think that, obviously Disney can afford it, but also like to get through there faster, people might be okay with that. And again, this is not going to be, and this is what I was going to bridge to. This is not going to be your typical, Disney vacation. No, this is going to be something totally different. So if you have to, people get so frustrated in Disneyland when it's crowded and it's hot and people are in the way or something like that. And you see people fighting and stuff like that. I feel like it would be interesting to see any Disney park early on in this stuff, because I feel like people that are going there are going to go with the expectation that things aren't going to go the way you think. It's going to be weird. It's going to be hard. But how do people handle that? You know what I mean? Right. And one thing you have to consider is just because, even though we're on lower capacity, doesn't mean that when you go to lower capacities, they also lower the capacity of the ride. Oh, absolutely. Right. The only difference would be like, they're not going to have every train running in Thunder Mountain, for example. Right. Well, even if they do, they're not going to sit you in each row. They're going to do like rows, take a space. So, it might take actually, even though you're going to be at like 30% capacity, your lines might actually be longer because you're having to put so many empty spots in between. Like you're not, I'm guessing you're not only going to have like say a Small World or Pirates of the Caribbean. You're going to have like a row, empty row, empty in each boat. And I'm guessing you're going to do empty boats in between seated boats. And honestly, man, what I would do, and I know this is, and for folks that don't know, obviously this is a park heavy episode, but we love the parks. But absolutely, people that don't know, those rides are designed to get as many people through the ride as possible per hour, and they have statistics and all this math behind it and how much they can do. So obviously that's out the window. What if, and I like this idea personally, like if I was going to go with my family, for example, if it was like 4 to 6 of us, let's say, we were traveling together and going to Disneyland, right? And all this stuff was in place. Why not just, if the capacity's out the window anyway, why not just have that family in that boat in Pirates of the Caribbean, for example? Totally makes sense. I think they're teaching their ride operators to deal with questions like that. And if my wife was like, I want a boat to ourselves, they're not going to say no. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, that totally makes sense. One thing that just jumped out at me was
I was talking about every other.
Oh, okay. Going back to, you were talking about ride capacity per hour.
Yeah.
Right, which is a major thing. It kind of just takes me. Has nothing to do with COVID.
That's crucial to the development of rides or attractions in general.
Because the more you can get in per hour, that's more people that are off the streets, which means you can bring more people into the parks.
Mm-hmm.
So it all filters together. But I remember when they were opening up the Little Mermaid ride at California Adventure. At the time, John Lasseter was still chief creative officer, and he went on the ride. And they said, yeah, we're able to get, with this ride, I think for Little Mermaid, it was something like 380 people through per hour or something like that. I think it's probably bigger than that. And he goes, but how fast is your ride time? And they said the ride time was like 2 minutes and 58 seconds or something like that. And he goes, slow it down a little bit. Even though it was gonna decrease the amount per hour, he said, I want them to actually enjoy the story.
Yeah.
And so he had them increase it by like 10 seconds or 8 seconds or something like that. And it minimized their capacity, but they enjoyed the ride better.
Yeah. And that ride
more repeat. Yeah.
Yeah. That ride's amazing. And my kids love that ride. And I think every time we go to the parks, we go on it at least once a day, if not twice.
Yeah. The last time I was at California Adventure, I actually got there pretty close to rope drop, and I went on Soarin', of course, right away.
Yeah.
And then I circled back around, and the first thing you hit because I skipped the rapids because it was too cold that morning.
Yeah.
But the first thing you hit after you go past the rapids is Little Mermaid on the right-hand side.
Right.
And I went through, and it was literally like walk on.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even have the queue area open. You basically walked up to the door, you went in, you sat in your car, and you got on. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you sat in your shell.
Yeah, and keeping that in mind too. I think it's interesting too, because right before all this stuff happened, we had some of the kerfuffle around Galaxy's Edge too, and about how many people were able to get on these rides, especially Rise of the Resistance, which wasn't running at peak capacity and all of that, right? So how do you think, since those parks, since Galaxy's Edge only has the 2 attractions, really, what do you think this does for those rides? Do they, I mean, I don't want to say, do they open those lands, but
they're going to have to, because they can't.
But the lines are going to be insane.
They are, but the perk with the, like, say, the Falcon, the Smuggler's Run ride, right?
Yeah.
You can do the same sort of thing that you talked about, like with your family. It's like you can limit it to families, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's only 6 people. Granted, you're all in there, so like you can't have strangers in there. You're gonna have to actually, if you have a group of 2, you're gonna have to put a group of 2 in there.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to, right? The unfortunate thing is, have you been? You've been on it, right?
No, I haven't been since. Remember?
Okay. The worst part about the Smuggler's Run queue ride is a queue line is when you actually get into the Falcon and you actually see like the sabacc table and all that stuff. It's like every man for themselves. It's like you're walking around in a little store there, and there's, until they call your color.
Yeah, you're in with a bunch of other boarding groups, right?
They are. So you're either going to have to limit the boarding groups or really make that much more queued. I mean, actually put up ropes and stuff.
Right.
Now, I haven't been on Rise of the Resistance, but because it's a very large capacity and it's a very long ride, I think it'll be easier to do social distancing on there.
Well, if they maintain their boarding group process too, they just do less boarding groups in a day.
Exactly.
And then
but
that wouldn't be a problem. What I
think is really helping is this time being closed, I think is giving the Imagineers and the maintenance staff a lot more time to work out the bugs that they had.
True, for sure. All right, man. I threw this one in there because I thought this was a good segue between Disney and and other Disney, but other things are affected, obviously, with all the COVID stuff. And I saw this story today, and I thought I'd throw it in there because I know you like your theater.
I do.
And one of the last things I did with my parents, actually, it might be the last thing we did, was in February. Yeah, it was right before I went to Utah. We went and saw The Cursed Child with my parents and my in-laws and my family. And obviously that was a Broadway thing that's going other places now too, right? And that was going to be a permanent thing there for, I think, 3 years in San Francisco. But the story I have in here is a big, obviously I'm bearing the lead, but Disney's Frozen Broadway show is being shut down permanently now. Is this going to be a trend on Broadway, do you think, is my question to you, which I'm afraid of the answer.
Very seasonal anyways. It's not it's very few. I mean, because in any given season, you've got like 30 or 40 shows that premiere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of those, you have maybe 10 that are long running.
Yeah.
Right. Like Hamilton is still playing. You know, Rent played for the longest time. Cats played for decades. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. With Disney, you actually get faster turnover. Lion King played for a long time, but because Disney does do many more shows, they did Frozen, they've done Beauty and the Beast, they've done Little Mermaid, they did Mary Poppins, they did Newsies, they did, all these. And I know they've got others in the, actually, I can actually tell you right now what they have going on. Because I actually looked this up the other day. Upcoming productions is their Hercules just premiered, I think. Mm-hmm. They're planning a Jungle Book one, Princess Bride, Alice in Wonderland, Father of the Bride, and Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh, so they got a lot going on. Okay.
Yeah, they have a slate coming up. So them canceling the one on Broadway is not a major issue.
Well,
because they have something that's going to be able to replace it, and I believe it's already started to make its money back, because it is ridiculous how much it costs to put on a Broadway show, and you have to run it for a certain amount of showings before you can actually make a profit on it. But so I'm sure they've already made their profit on it. The one that worries me is that they started their US tour in November of last year, and they had to suspend that because of COVID in March. That's where you make your long running money.
Yeah.
Is when it's as you know, because Brenda's got her. I mean, she didn't make her money showing it at the Kennedy Center. She makes her money when Chicago decided to pick it up, or Lincoln Center. Yeah. Sorry. She gets her money when Chicago decided to pick it up, or Mendocino decided to pick it up, because she sells the story.
Yeah.
So that's where they're starting to get their money in the
Well, I was going to bring up Brenda too, because she had a show coming up, and we were supposed to go to New York actually this summer, and all that got postponed and stuff. So I worry, and I don't want to be like, is theater dead? But I mean, on some level, it's going to change for sure, and then we've also got to deal with movie theaters as well.
Yeah, Broadway's never going to die.
No, of course not.
And long running musical theater's not going to die. It's going to take a major hit right now. The ones that I really feel sorry for are not the long running shows,
it's the little ones.
They've made their money, like Hamilton and Rent and all those. They've made their money back hundredfold at this point, right?
Yeah.
What I really feel sorry for, because we were, I think, near the beginning of the season when they canceled, is those shows that like spent $100 million to get up and running, and they had to get canceled after like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's brutal. Yeah.
And the chances of those shows making their money back are infinitesimal.
No, for sure. Well, let's move on to more Disney.
It's a Disney heavy show.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Disney company heavy show today.
Yeah. So let's go. We're in our streaming section. So most of the news I have outside of, and the one thing I didn't put in the show notes, but the DC Universe streaming stuff, all of their content has been pushed off, I think, a year or something. I got to find the article.
For most of the major new stuff, like a lot of the, and a lot of it
like
doesn't
the
have to do
Berlantiverse stuff. Right? Maybe it was a different story I saw. Hold on.
Yeah, well, Berlanti is CW. That's not.
No, yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry,
I can see them taking a year off.
Yeah,
because they will have probably at least gotten close to finishing this season. If they didn't actually finish the season, they might have to cut off the last couple episodes.
Yeah,
but they're not going to be able to get back into production for next year until well into would be the next season. I'm guessing they might switch to what they might do is, if they can get into production by like say January, they might try to do a summer season of say 9 episodes next summer, and then start again in the fall. I think that's what they might want to show. I don't think they're going to take like a whole year off.
Right.
But they might try to do like a miniature limited run of all like 5 shows or whatever.
Right.
I think that would be the smart thing to me.
I'm going to look for this headline I saw earlier, and I was going to throw out there, but
as for Disney Plus, their major Marvel stuff is going to get pushed back. And that isn't, I mean, part of it's because they had to shut down production on some shows, but a lot of it has to do is just because they haven't been able to show the stuff in theaters, and it's contingent on each other. And so if you can't show Black Widow, and it turns out Falcon and the Winter Soldier is dependent on something you see in Black Widow, they have to push that back.
Exactly.
So that's what's going on with that. Now with the other Disney Plus series like Percy Jackson or
well, that just got announced, I think, today, is they're going to do a Percy Jackson series.
Yeah,
on Disney
exactly.
Plus.
So the thing is what Disney's great about is sometimes they go into production on stuff and you really didn't know how deep into production they were. And that's actually the Hamilton thing, which I like. When I heard about that, okay, if you haven't heard it, Hamilton, the movie was supposed to be getting, because it's being distributed by Disney.
Right.
And it was going to get released next year. Right. Well, it turns out that when COVID was coming up, they busted their ass on production and got it done. And they're releasing it to the streaming services. I want to say July 3rd.
Yeah, it's early July. It says Percy Jackson is happening, and that's officially announced, which is awesome. But yeah, having something come early is huge. That means they were like, well, they kind of saw it coming, like you said. So
exactly. And so not only that, but so Percy Jackson, that might be just announced, so that might be coming next year, but we still have Artemis Fowl coming sometime this summer, straight to Disney, because they've decided to skip the theaters on that one.
Right. And the Percy Jackson thing I think is exciting for my family. They love the books and we watch the movies and stuff, but to have a series would be great. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same with Artemis Fowl. I like the books of Artemis Fowl, so I can't wait to the movie.
And the reason I think Disney's doing this too, obviously this is part of the Fox acquisition, being able to do this. And so they're like, all right, well, let's make it into a series. And I think that's a good call. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited about the Mando season 2 stuff. So why don't you bring us into that?
Yeah. So the next section, we've got 4 stories here, and I love every single one of them. Has to do with Mandalorian season 2. The first one I have in here is a Disney exec confirms that it won't be delayed due to coronavirus. So they were deep enough into it to be like, all right, we're not going to delay, we're going to go. And so that's exciting. The other thing is obviously in the last couple of days, Boba Fett has been confirmed to appear in The Mandalorian. Now, and he's going to be played by, and I don't know this actor, Temuera Morrison. He was the one that played Jango Fett.
Yeah, how do you not know who Temuera Morrison is?
I just didn't know the name off the top of my head, but I know who he was.
Yeah, he played Jango Fett, and since Boba Fett was his unaged clone,
right,
it makes sense that this is what Boba Fett would look like.
Maybe I just never retained the name. I don't know.
Yeah, it's perfect. He also did other stuff, and I'm drawing a blank on it.
I could definitely pick the boy out of a crowd. He's amazing, and I'm stoked for this. But what people are trying to figure out right now too, and I have an article in here that it says how Boba Fett's return in The Mandalorian changes the original trilogy. Why would this change the original trilogy? Well, because Boba Fett died in a Sarlacc pit.
True, but it was already established in Battlefield that he survived.
Right, but I'm saying again,
but for the mainstream,
right? And this is one of those things where if you're not a hardcore Star Wars fan and you're following, like, yeah, we all know he survived the Sarlacc pit. But if you were tuning into The Mandalorian and you had seen the original trilogy only, for example, and you're like, oh, that's badass. And you're like, wait, this guy died. What's the timeline issue, right? So I feel like Star Wars is getting into those things where as they do these things, they have to kind of say, okay, but this happened and remember, and then this happened here, and then remember this, right? So it's getting a little convoluted, but I'm excited.
Yeah. So really quick, Temuera Morrison, he played Aquaman's dad in Aquaman.
That's right. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
He was also the chief in Moana.
All right.
And there's something else I remember him.
Well, like I said, I think he was, I want to rewatch the prequels with my kids because I think they have no memory of him. But he was great as Jango Fett.
He was a good Jango Fett.
Absolutely amazing. And I think it's awesome that they're bringing him in for Boba Fett because it makes a lot of sense. Considering,
and it's already been confirmed that Rosario Dawson's going to be Ahsoka Tano for Mando 2.
Right. And did we talk? I couldn't remember. I was going to put that in here. I don't remember if we talked about it in the last show.
We mentioned it.
Okay. So that's confirmed. Rosario Dawson is going to be Ahsoka Tano.
And I'm sure you're excited about this last one.
Well, for yes and no.
Well, because you love her.
I love, one of my secret amazing crushes of my life is Katee Sackhoff. And Katee Sackhoff, who played Starbuck in the reboot of
Battlestar
Galactica, she's coming. She did the voice for this character in Rebels and the Clone Wars, which is interesting if you think about the implications of Rosario Dawson doing Ahsoka Tano, because Ashley Eckstein does her voice in those things, but now Rosario Dawson is going to do it in the live action. So Katee Sackhoff gets to do
Dawson
both.
Fits the physical better.
I get it, but at the same time,
Ashley Eckstein.
I know, same here. So, but Katee Sackhoff, because I obviously danced around it, is going to play Bo-Katan, who is in Rebels and the Clone Wars as a Mandalorian. This is the person, spoilers, 3, 2, 1 for Rebels. But at the end, towards the end of Rebels, or if not the finale of Rebels, Sabine gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan at the end there. So
right, which is really interesting because, again, spoilers, if you haven't watched the end of Mando season 1, Moff Gideon is the one that ends up with it shows off that he's got the Darksaber when he steps out of his crashed TIE fighter.
Right. So it does make sense that all these characters are kind of coming together. I'm really excited. I love Katee Sackhoff so much.
Okay, you know who I would love for them to have a surprise, like we did not announce that this character is going to be in it? Can you imagine if they brought in Ezra Bridger?
See? Okay, and I was watching, what was I watching last night?
Or Sabine Wren.
But, and you haven't watched the Clone Wars either. I'm watching the Clone Wars slowly with my wife and kids right now. And there was an episode where they were talking about, where Hera's dad, his first name flew out of my head, Syndulla, comes up in Clone Wars early on.
Right.
And because
he was an admiral, right?
Well, yeah. And they're trying to save, this is earlier than that even, because they are, saving Ryloth and the Twi'leks, right?
Right. Okay.
And so they're there, and Syndulla's there, and they don't talk about the kid or anything yet, at least. But it's interesting to see how all this stuff connects, because again, they do mention Syndulla's name in episode 9 as well during the last scene. You see the ghost and everything else.
Yeah, you
right?
actually see you see the image of the ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I love how they're bringing all this stuff together. And at the same time, I feel bad a little bit for Ashley Eckstein, a little bit, but at the same time, she did a lot for that character in a lot of years, as far as the voice goes. But, I'm really excited about Katee Sackhoff actually being able to play the role, in real life that she voiced for, a bunch of years too. So that's cool.
Yeah. The perk with Ashley Eckstein is, one, she's just so majorly talented that I think eventually she's going to get an on-screen role somewhere in the Star Wars universe. It just is probably, it's not going to be Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But
That's
I think eventually she's going to get it.
Yeah. All
right. So what we're watching right now, do you want to do your stuff first? Do you want me to do
mine? No, you go.
Okay. I'm a huge Hank Azaria fan. Right. The funny thing is, I'm not actually a huge Simpsons fan.
That's fine.
But I love Hank Azaria in like all the live action stuff he does. I loved him in his bit part on Friends, where he played the scientist guy. I loved him in The Birdcage. I loved him in America's Sweethearts. Just everything he does, I love.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's been on a show for the last 4 years, and I didn't know it.
What?
And he had a show that just had their series finale a couple weeks ago. It's called Brockmire.
I've heard of it.
And it's with him and Amanda Peet, and he plays a Major League Baseball announcer who has a meltdown on the air when he decides to go home in the middle of the day and catches his wife in an orgy. And then
I've heard about this then.
Yeah, and then he comes back to the park and he has a meltdown, and he gets fired or whatever, and he decides to, and he just like travels the world for like a decade.
Yeah.
Not having any access like the internet or anything. He actually says that at his lowest point he was calling cockfights in like Indonesia or something.
No way.
But he turns out he had become like the first viral star when his blow up on became huge, right?
Right.
So Amanda Peet had bought this low level minor league baseball team and convinces him to come back to do the play by play.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it ran for 4 seasons. I think there's only 8 episodes per season. So there's only like 32 episodes.
Yeah.
And I watched the first season, and it's pretty darn funny.
Okay. I heard about it. I never watched it, but I love him though.
Yeah. So I checked that out. And then Solar Opposites dropped this week.
Okay.
On Hulu, I think. And that's not Dan Harmon, but who's the other guy who does Rick and Morty?
Dan Harmon's the only name I can think of right now.
Justin Roiland.
Okay, yeah.
Because he's the guy who does the voice of Rick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he came up with this new series called Solar Opposites. And it's about these 4 aliens, and they have a pupa larva of a species and they're like 2 adults and 2 like younger versions of themselves, right? And their planet it gets hit by some like meteors, and so they send out like 100 of these groups, and this one group end up crash landing on Earth, and it's them trying to fit in. But the funny thing is their spaceship is actually crash landed into a house that was for sale, so they bought the house, and the ship is just like still on top of the house. And
it's a comedy, right?
Oh, it's totally
fun.
Funny.
Because I saw a preview for that, the Solar Opposites. Yeah, I saw a preview for that the other day.
Yeah, so a couple funny things about this.
That's the cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon.
I thought you were talking about something else. Yes.
No, perfect. And so I watched the first couple episodes, and it's like the angry parts of Rick and Morty times 10.
Did you watch Rick and Morty ever?
Oh yeah, I watched every new episode. I've watched the last 2 episodes the day they came out.
Oh, okay. I think I'm behind on the latest season, but yeah.
Rick and Morty's great.
Yeah, I love it.
So this is pretty funny. But the other funny thing about it is I had to skip Comic-Con this last year.
Yeah.
But if you remember, we had the raffle that you had to sign up for autographs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually won a raffle this year to go meet the cast of Solar Opposites and get their autographs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so I couldn't go, and I would have had to sign paper to meet Justin Roiland and all them.
Oh man. Well,
anyway. Yeah. Thomas Middleditch is in it. He's been in a whole bunch of other shows. Let's see who else is in it.
No, I've seen the previews for it. I wanted to watch it. I haven't watched it yet. But
Christina Hendricks is in it.
Oh, nice.
Who I just love. Andrew Matarazzo, if I remember correctly, he is not who I was thinking of. I thought he was the little boy from Jurassic Park that has grown up and become an actor and director. That's Joseph Matarazzo. All right. So anyway, so I watched the first couple episodes of Solar Opposites, and then I just watched the last season of Survivor for the first time in like a decade of watching. I hadn't watched Survivor in a while, but Survivor has become my sister Donna's favorite show. And so she talked me into watching this season because it was the 40th season.
I still can't believe that show's been on that long.
Well, it's 20 years. They do 2 episodes a season.
Or 2 seasons. Yeah, but still.
2 seasons. They do 2 seasons a year.
Right.
And so this was its 40th season. And what they did special for the season is they had 20 people. They brought back 20 former winners.
Oh, wow.
And so everybody on this season had won. They upped the prize pool to $2 million, or the major prize to $2 million.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's just like, see, all these 20 different people who all had varying ways to win the game on how they would do it. And so the finale was this week, and I was a little upset with who won. Yeah. But I'm not a major fan of reality shows.
Neither am I.
There's a show in Britain that's been huge for over a decade. It's called Google Box.
Okay.
And they have a version of it in Australia. And what it is you don't watch you're not watching anything, but you're watching people that have agreed to have cameras in their homes.
Oh,
and you watch these people watch TV. Well, they're doing kind of a version of that now, but it's different. We're watching celebrities, and it's called Celebrity Watch Party. And it just premiered on Hulu, and I want to say it's on Fox.
Okay.
And,
is it any good?
Oh, no, not Fox, CBS. It's decent.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, I think I would prefer it better if it was just nobody's, like just random people that we were watching, because then you get the real atmosphere where it's like, I really don't care about watching Rob Lowe with his 2 sons watching it, or watching the Osbournes watching it, or
Rob Lowe. But yes,
but the frustrating thing is because it's on CBS, all the shows they were watching were that channel, whatever.
So
right?
That's no fun.
But it shows parts of the shows, and it shows them reacting and stuff. And so one of my favorites is it had, major rapper had Cash Money Records.
Cash Money Records?
Yeah.
You're talking about, no, that's different. That's Bad Boy Records. I'm thinking P. Diddy.
Yeah, no, same sort of time, but it was out of Atlanta. He had glasses.
Outkast?
No, his son was Little Romeo.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Master P.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Master P.
All right.
Love Master P.
Yeah. So again, what the hell was the name of his label? It was No Limit. Sorry, No Limit Records. Okay. So, and they're out of New Orleans. Cash Money was something different.
Got it.
So No Limit Records. So you had Master P, whose relatives were C Murder, Silk the Shocker.
Yeah. I used to listen to those guys all the time back in the day.
Exactly. They were huge when I was working in the music industry. Okay. So anyway, so it had Master P and Lil Romeo watching. And the two things that I loved is they watched the Sunday night movie of the week last week, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Lil Romeo had never seen Raiders.
Oh, no way.
And Master P's like, dude, how have you never seen Raiders? And so they were watching it. So that was pretty darn good. But then they watched an episode of Dr. Pimple Popper.
I can't watch that kind of stuff.
Have you ever watched that?
No, I can't watch that.
And it was like this Latin woman who had like a big, huge cyst on her back shoulder.
Gross.
And she'd had it for like a decade, like since she was 9, and she's like in her mid-20s, so almost 20 years.
Super gross. And
when they popped it looked like it was one of the other people they had watching was Jamie Oliver and his wife Lindsay Price, who's an actress. And the stuff when it came out looked like refried black beans.
Oh.
Right.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that.
I know. Well, so Jamie Oliver actually said, I'm not cooking with beans for a long time. But the hilarious thing is the entire time this is going on, Lil Romeo is like going, she's hot. And like the whole thing happens. And then they sew her up and everything goes, dude, after the show, I'm going to look her up on Instagram and try to slide in her DMs.
Oh, God.
It was a hilarious thing. It's like you totally in Master P's just like, dude, what are you talking about?
Oh, it's nasty, dude.
But that's the one thing I liked about it. Like the random crap that's going on. Right. There was the Osbournes, they were watching The Masked Singer.
Yeah.
And Ozzy fell asleep during part of it.
I can see that. He's 1,000, obviously.
He is. So it was pretty. There were parts of it which were funny, but I hate how much it was self-service.
Yeah.
Then I remember back to when I was a kid and you had like the Battle of the Network Stars and Superstars and all that, and that was all network self-service.
They've been doing this forever, So.
Exactly, and it's cheap to do. So I understand why they're doing it. So that's basically what I watched this week.
Nice. So I've been watching is Community still. Have you watched that show?
I watched the first half season when it first came out, and it just didn't grab me. It's the same thing with Parks and Rec. I watched like the first half season, but I really just need to sit down and binge and get through the first season, and I know it'll start catching me because I love everybody involved. It didn't catch me at the time.
Community is brilliant. It's super good. I hear this as these things progress, like the middle seasons aren't as good. I hear the last season's really good. Whatever. Kate and I think just started season 3 last night. I love
Chevy
it.
Chase left the cast yet?
He left at the end of season 2, I think. I imagine he's gone now because he basically stormed off at the end. And I know Glover leaves at some point and stuff too. But anyway, it's a great show. I love the characters, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So we're watching that. Speaking of Parks and Rec, they did a special, a quarantine kind of special where they went around to people's houses. They I want to say Lindsay Snope, but that's not right.
Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope, that's it. So Leslie Knope, so she has this phone tree set up to check in with everybody every day. And it's like they managed to make a heartfelt special by calling everybody and seeing where people are now, like in real life, but as their characters. And like everybody shows up. It's brilliantly done. It's really, really sweet. And just a really awesome special. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like this going on. Community's doing a table read. They just did a table read the other day. There's a lot of casts coming back together and doing these things. The Parks and Rec one really got me. It was so good. If you're a fan of the show, definitely check it out. We watched that. We finished Upload, by the way, which I thought we could talk about for a second. Upload's freaking brilliant and really good.
Isn't it?
Yeah, super good. Kate loved it. So we really enjoyed that. And I can't recommend that show highly enough. I don't want to spoil anything, and you're right. It does end on a cliffhanger. I kind of saw it coming, with how it was going to end once it got, partway through the last episode. But honestly, like it's definitely worth a watch, and I can't wait for the next season.
The mystery part of it didn't surprise me.
Right.
What the quote unquote girlfriend did kind of surprised me.
Yes. That's what I was saying. So like, yeah, I mean, you could kind of see where everything was going and who did what, obviously, but then there was a nice little twist at the end, which is good. So finished Upload, X-Men. We watched all the X-Men movies with the kids.
I see your nice little comment here.
None of us, Kate and I had not seen Dark Phoenix. And so we all watched Dark Phoenix together. And I'm like, It wasn't terrible. I like the movie fine. I mean, I can see where people have problems with it. But
yeah, the thing that I think it had best going for it is Sophie Turner was actually pretty decent in it.
She was.
As Phoenix. I thought Jennifer Lawrence phoned in her entire performance.
Oh, yeah, as Mystique. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell that she just wanted to be killed off so she wouldn't have to be brought back.
Yeah.
Which is sad because I love Jennifer Lawrence.
I do too, but she was huge at this time. Way bigger than this movie.
Well, the thing is, and Mystique doesn't get killed off in this comics. I'm like,
I know.
Now you just like, but on the other hand, it gets bought up by Disney. They can do whatever they want now.
Yeah, for sure. But it wasn't terrible, and I liked what the kids liked him. So
I forgot to say this is actually New Mutants has a new official release date.
Right, that just got announced today, didn't it?
Yesterday. I think. It was announced on Instagram, and it's now set for August. I think it's August 8th or something like that. Let me see, August 28th.
Sweet.
And that's been like, they filmed it like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's been sitting around forever. I know. Yeah,
the filming originally ended in 2017.
It's crazy. Crazy. Well, we'll get it eventually, soon.
This is a little side thing is Doug Liefeld, who's the creator of Deadpool, has come out saying that he doesn't think Disney's actually ever going to do a Deadpool 3.
Yeah. I don't know. I can see why he would say that. Even under the Fox banner, I mean, everybody knows it's Disney now. I feel like they're going to have a harder time pushing more rated R stuff, I think, through the Marvel stuff. You know what I mean?
They just have to do it because, I mean, a lot of people forget that Disney was in charge of Miramax when they released Pulp Fiction.
I know.
So, I mean, they released
Miramax did Clerks. There's an F-bomb every 2 seconds.
Right. Well, that was prior to Disney buying them out.
But I'm just saying. Yeah. You know.
But I remember, I mean, I didn't get hired at the Disney store until 1996. And even then, which was 2 years after Pulp Fiction came out, there were still people that were protesting Disney stores because of Pulp Fiction being released under Disney.
Crazy. So I think eventually I don't know. I think they eventually will do it because that's a wonderful franchise and they'd be leaving money on the table if they didn't, I think.
Actually, what I think the smartest thing to do would be to start doing some Deadpool spinoffs on Disney Plus, because you have so many stories. Like you could do can you imagine if they did a 6-episode limited run of Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, there's so many they could do.
It would be huge.
Yeah.
That would be so huge.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to put as much of a budget into it. You could still get some of the cast and it'd be so huge.
That would be awesome.
And you can have it be standalone.
I'm with you,
and not canon. Yeah.
The last thing I've been watching, and we're just caught up today. Have you watched this SGN? Have you been watching this?
Yeah, some good news.
Some good news with John Krasinski. It's, I mean, if you want to cry every day,
oh, totally.
Watch this show.
I still remember. I think he did it in his second week or something like that.
Yeah.
A girl had her tickets to Hamilton canceled,
yeah,
and so he got the entire cast of Hamilton to come on and Zoom for her to sing Alexander Hamilton. I was in tears by the end of it.
Have you seen the latest episode?
I honestly haven't watched it in a few weeks.
Okay. When you watch the latest episode, oh man. Anyway, he does an amazing job. I love John, and it inspired me again to go back. And that's one of the things we've been watching episodes of The Office with the kids too. I mean, it's a little over Zoe's head, I think, but I love that show, and it's got a lot of heart, and those characters are amazing. And Krasinski brings people in randomly into this show. If you want like a bright side of people doing amazing things, he does a really good job putting it all into one like 30-minute, 18 to 35-minute chunk on YouTube. It's well worth to watch.
Krasinski is just such a good person.
He is. He's a really good person.
And Emily Blunt too. I mean, it's like they're the ultimate couple. Yeah. I just love them to death.
And she shows up a couple times. There's a little I don't know if you saw the episode where they're talking about Mary Poppins for a kid.
That was right before the Hamilton thing.
Yeah.
Because remember Lin-Manuel Miranda was in Mary Poppins,
and she's like making a couple quips about like, oh well, I mean, I'm Mary Poppins, but I guess if you want to see him, it's brilliant. It's really cute, and so we've been watching that at the end of the night. It's a nice kind of way to end our TV with the kids, honestly. So,
dude, I just had a massive revelation.
Yes.
About Hamilton.
Okay. Like
this is going to be my Uber geek side coming out here.
Okay.
But who here? I mean, do you remember what the EGOTs are?
Yeah.
Okay,
you won
know,
a Tony and Emmy and all the things. Yeah.
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Yeah.
Right. There's been, I think, maybe 20 people in history that have ever won the EGOTs, and I think of them, I think only 8 of them won them in all competitive categories, as opposed to like honorary awards.
Right.
Right. So like Barbara Streisand's an EGOT winner, but I think one of her, I think her, not her Grammy. I think her Tony might, because her Grammy wouldn't be. I think her Tony was honorary.
Okay.
Well, Lin-Manuel Miranda has won the Grammy, obviously won the Tony. He's won a Grammy. He's won an Emmy.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he's also won the Pulitzer, because he won the Pulitzer for writing Hamilton.
Right.
The only thing he hasn't won is the Oscar. And people thought he might have won it a couple of years ago because he wrote the songs for Moana.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that one lost out to a different show. And then he also wrote the songs for Mary Poppins. So that didn't win. I honestly think one of the reasons why Disney is pushing up Hamilton to this year to the streaming service is because the Oscars about a month ago released a press release that they're changing the rules for the Oscars this year.
I heard.
Because it used to be that you had to be at least, I think, 3 weeks in a theater in either LA, New York, or Chicago.
Right.
And this one's saying you can be a full-on streaming show.
Now they're saying it's for this year only because of all the circumstances.
If they were planning on releasing it to streaming next year, why not pump it up to this year? Yeah. Have it be considered for Best Picture material, and finally get Lin-Manuel his Oscar.
Yeah, or his EGOT. Yeah, no, I'm with you, dude.
Well, his Oscar to get his
get his EGOT.
For him, it'd be the PGOT.
PGOT. Damn, he's killing it. But yeah, I hope that happens, dude. He's a ridiculously talented human person.
I mean, Disney just loves their awards. Yeah. So if there's a way that they can release Hamilton this year and try to clean up some Oscars, they're going to do it. That makes total sense now why they're pushing it up.
Sounds good, dude.
All right, sorry. So I just had that revelation while we were talking.
No, you're fine. We just have a little bit of gaming stuff to talk about, and then we're done. I mean, we could have been done already, but we're just chatting. So
yeah. So I've been spending some time on SWTOR. And not only that, me and my PvP-ness, which I usually don't get going, I've actually done a lot of PvP in the last week, because I was like trying to clear up some old missions that I never had completed.
Yeah. And
one of them was that I had to recruit Major Pierce. And if you hadn't, and I forget, Pierce was I want to say a Jedi. Was he a Jedi companion?
Pierce. Wait, no, he was a trooper, right? I don't remember.
Whatever it is, but if you weren't that main, I mean, if you weren't that character playing for that, you had to recruit him by playing 20 PvP matches.
Right.
And so I finally said, okay, I'm going to buckle down this week, and I played 4 PvP matches a day for 5 days to get the 20 done. And I finally got the weekly done, and I out of the 20, I think I only ended up having to play, I think, 16 because I won 4.
Oh, nice.
I got named MVP once. Most of the time I was near the bottom because I'm a soft bellied sniper who just kept getting killed all the time. But I did pretty well. My Valor went from 9 to 31. So I actually got a whole bunch of new Valor.
You being a PvP guy.
I know. So I got a whole bunch more achievement scores from my Valor.
Right.
And plus I'm like maybe 10% away from maxing out my social to social 10.
Nice, dude.
Because I bumped up to social 9 now, and that almost filled up too. So I think I might play some PvP over the next month a little bit just to finally max those out to get to Valor 50. And
PvP is fun. I used to play a lot more of it, but I haven't played too much SWTOR lately anyway. But
I just realized I really don't like Hut Ball, and I don't like the one where you have to like go around and just camp on these little markers.
Yeah, Hut Ball sucks. I don't know the other one you're talking about because I haven't played in a while, but
although I do like that they do have Hut Ball on different planets now. Like you can play Hut Ball on Quest, you can play it on
it varies.
I usually like playing like Navarre Coast or something like that, or the one on Yavin. Those are fun.
Well, I've been playing City Skylines a little bit. That's pretty much all. I've been playing actually a couple Switch games, but not too far in them. But some quick news. Coming to console and PC, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 is getting remastered, and it looks amazing, and I loved those games back in the day. I used to play on my PS2. I cannot wait for this to come out. It's supposed to come out in, I think, September. So I'm super stoked about it.
talking about how earlier I had a birthday party thing for a fraternity brother.
Yeah.
The PS2 and Tony Hawk 2 had just come out when I was rushing, and so that was huge in the house, and everyone was doing the Kryze pose. From that guy and doing twists on that. I remember doing cool, that. And then when we finally had the big revelation that you get all the multipliers by doing the grinding.
Yeah.
And
no, it was a blast. I spent hours and hours on those games.
Yeah, what I'm excited about it is the remastering is remastered up to 4K.
Oh, it's beautiful. And some of the screenshots I've seen, I'm just like, oh my God, dude. And if the gameplay is the same, it's gonna be great.
That would be a lot of fun.
All right, man. So let's jump out of here. I'm glad we got to do this though, for sure.
Wrap it up.
So thanks for tuning in to The Usual Podcast. If you have comments or questions, you can find us at theusualpodcast.com. Email us at theusualpodcast@gmail.com and find us on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. I am at Darth Pops on Twitter, and Will is at IMO So when you find us, like us, share us, and tell your friends. And we are patreon.com/usual podcast, the best way to support the show, or audibletrial.com/usual podcast. And dude, what else you got?
Dude, in this time of social distancing, you just got to make sure you have a fun.
Have a fun, 6 feet apart. Have a great week. We'll see you all next week.
Peace.